Hi, I'm Marc Jenkins, Olympian, ex-elite athlete, now triathlon coach.
Hi, I'm Helen Jenkins, a three-time Olympian, two-time World Champion and also an MBE.
At Super League, London Arena Games, Helen's going to compete against some of the best triathletes in the world from every distance of the sport. In this video, we're going to talk you through some of the training we're going to be doing to help Helen best prepare for the Arena Games in London. Today we're preparing for the run section of the Super League Arena Games. There's some unique aspects. We're trying to introduce a bit of strength and a bit of power into Helen's training now that she wouldn't normally have. And today we're doing a fartlek session on the Big Dipper, which is behind me. So the warm-up for today's session is some dynamic drills and dynamic stretches. Helen's got to get her body moving. She suffered with more injuries than most athletes, so the warm-up for Helen's very important. Then she's going to do a few miles. Easy, gentle running. Within that few miles, she's going to do a couple of strides, really activating the muscles, getting the body ready for the fartlek session. Helen's going to be running on a curved treadmill. Most treadmills, they flow for you and you haven't got to get the belt moving yourself. The curved treadmill, you've got to generate that power, get it up to speed and get it going. It requires a bit more strength. The objective of the session today is to build a bit of power, a bit of strength. It's going to be tough, but it's going to be fun. The actual session today is going to be 10 by 20-second intervals. She's going to have a 1-minute jog back, rest, then she's going to do it again. There's going to be an anaerobic element to it, there's going to be a strength element to it, and the principle of it is to replicate what you need to do on that curved treadmill. You need to get on it, you need to generate as much power and as much speed as you can quickly, then you need to try and settle. Once they've settled, they'll probably need to generate a bit more power if that treadmill starts slowing down, and you've got to get on the front of it again. It's really hard to do that. It's more muscular and more challenging than you'd need in any other run. Preparing for the bike section of the Arena Games. The athletes are going to need to produce a lot of power early on in the bike section to either close a gap or hold the other athletes off. It's more power than they're normally producing in their racing that they do. Some athletes race the bike section for an hour, 30 minutes when they're in a normal race. Other athletes, like the longer distance athletes, are racing for 4 or 5 hours on the bike. In the Arena Games, it's going to be maybe 4 or 5 minutes. So it's going to be a big demand on them for a short period of time. So they're going to have to incorporate that into their training. So Zwift is a unique environment. It's not outdoors. You're indoors. You're on a turbo. There's nobody really around you other than the person next to you, but you're not really getting much of a drafting effect. So you're going to have to go as hard as you can. Hopefully you find yourself in a unique position where you're in a pack and you can use other people to pull you along. Or if you're not in a pack, you're going to have to time trial essentially the whole way. So depending on what position you find yourself in on the bike, it depends what the tactic is. But hopefully you've got the power and ability to deal with it. So that's what the training is meant to do, is to give you the ability to deal with any situation as it unfolds. In the build-up to the Arena Games, we've adapted Helen's training a little bit. She was doing some more longer aerobic type sessions of longer durations, so we've just pulled that back a little bit. We're giving ourselves a 3-week period where we're adjusting the training slightly. She's doing more intense training, but for shorter periods to hopefully build her power so she can race better over a 3 to 4 minute section, which is going to be what's required multiple times in the Arena Games. So one of Helen's bike sessions that she's going to use to prepare for the Arena Games is a 5-minute interval session. The interval is broken down as a minute, as much power as Helen can produce, hopefully over 300 watts, 310, 320 for a minute. Then she's going to back it up with 4 minutes around her second threshold, which is the power she can hold for a longer period. She'll back that up at around 260, 270 watts. We're aiming to replicate the race. So she comes off a run onto the bike, goes hard for that first minute, either has to close a gap or either has to hold a gap. Similarly, if she comes out of a swim, you want to go as hard as you possibly can for that first minute to make the gap establish and then hold the threshold. The principle of that is we're replicating the race, and that's what you should do in your training. You should try to replicate the demands of a race.
So the racing at Arena Games is going to be a very high intensity activity. It's going to be really sort of explosive and stuff that we want to be really prepared for. So we're getting as much data as we possibly can. So at the moment, we're taking Helen's blood lactic, so we're ascertaining what zone she's in at certain wattages, so we can plan out her training and her race strategies, knowing that when she goes above and below, how quickly she can recover from the effort that she's putting in. So for Helen particularly, this stuff that she's less familiar with, going absolutely maximum out. She's more of a steady state athlete. So we need to know quite how deep she can actually go. So by testing her, seeing how high she can actually go in terms of power, and then how quickly she can recover, gives us an indication of what we can do in this short period before we actually race for preparation, and also what those like red zones are for racing, so we don't overcook it too much and then mean that we can't run off it effectively.
So I'm just going to take you through a little strength and conditioning session I do. I think when you think of triathlon, you think of swim, bike, run, but the things we do around triathlon, around the three sports, are the bits that keep us injury free. So the activation, mobility, the strength, that keeps us kind of training really well and our body's functioning well. To go fast, your body has to be strong and stable. So all these like small stability exercises, it's just allowing your body to be able to hold those sort of faster speeds. It's not specifically for speed, but if you don't do this kind of stuff, you do the speed work and your body just won't take it. Firstly, I would start with some mobility. So I tend to use my foam roller for this. I'll mobilise through my upper back and my shoulders first. I think predominantly our legs feel more tired, so we do our legs first. But for me, if my back, shoulders are loose, this definitely helps generally through my legs. So start up here, then I'll use the roller further down, kind of the sore spots, maybe along the ITBs and the glutes. Then I would do an activation circuit for my glutes. Glutes are so important in triathlon, well, cycling, running. We need them to be strong and functioning well. So this little circuit improves the strength, but also gets everything activated before doing any sort of like harder runs. I'll use this band kind of in some of my glute exercises, put it around my knees. So we do use this to do squats. Again, kind of really getting those glutes strong. I also do something called monster walks. This is where you walk sideways with the band around your knees. Looks a bit strange, but yeah, you can really feel it kind of deep in the glutes, getting those muscles working. And then I've got some dumbbells here, and they're not very heavy. These are just 5 kilo dumbbells, but it's kind of heavy enough for what I need. And in a home environment, it is pretty much all I've had over the last few months. So I use these just to weight myself a little bit. I'll do some single leg work, so a bit of stability, called single leg RDLs, getting those glutes strong, but it does bring in a little bit of balance and a little bit of extra weight to get that extra bit of strength.
So the swim in the Arena Games is only going to be 200 metres at various different stages of the event. We're changing Helen's training so she's able to swim faster for short periods, similarly to what we're doing in the bike and similarly to what we're doing in the run. In her training, we're incorporating short, fast work as well as trying to keep a bit of aerobic conditioning. So Helen's currently able to swim 4 times a week. She's able to access the Cardiff Performance Centre with Welsh Triathlon. A specific session we're going to do with Helen is she's going to do 8 by 50 metres. All those 50 metres are going to be as hard as she can possibly swim. They're going to be off 60 seconds, so she's got quite a bit of recovery, but she's going to do that 3 times. The objective of that session is to produce as much lactic as she can and to hold it for as long as she can. Thanks for hanging out with us today.
I hope you've learned a little bit about how we're preparing for Super League, Arena Games, and hopefully you can take some tips to put into your training.